So as most of you guys know, this was our first build as Retro Motorsports, the brand and the business. So we did an S52 swap on this 95 E34. It's a 525, so it had an M50 and an automatic. It'd been manual swap before we touched it, but originally this car was automatic. And last year we did an S52, which is a 3.2 liter from the E36 M3. We took that engine and we paired it to the 5-speed already in the car. And that swap's been done for about a year. The owner, John's been putting some miles on it, so he just brought it back to us to check in on some of the stuff we didn't touch and see how the stuff that we did touch is holding up. And here we are a year and 1,500 miles after the swap. So we inspected it. It does have an oil leak, which we are going to take care of when it comes back for service. But for now, he's worried about his mushy bushings. This car's got, what, I think about 180 on it. It's all factory bushings, maybe some control arms been replaced in this car's life, but bushings, not really. So we're calling this Project Mushy Bushy from now. The rear subframes are really bad. Sway bar bushings, sway bar end links are really bad. So I'm gonna get it up in the air and I'll show you our oil leak and I'll show you our mushy bushy. All right, so now that we got it up, let's show you what's going on here. So first of all, we do have a small oil leak, which we resealed this motor top to bottom 1,500 miles ago, just last year. And if you look, oh boy, our oil pan, I don't know how much more clear that could be. Our oil pan gasket is leaking. Since we did that not too long ago, making a deal with John, we take care of some of his really bad front suspension stuff and we'll warranty that oil pan gasket. I did what I could when I sealed this oil pan when the engine was on a stand, flipped upside down, and I was putting the oil pan on. We had the best case scenario with a fresh gasket and it still leaked. So I think I'm gonna have to use a little bit more silicone next time. He needs a lot of front end work. And so it doesn't make sense for me to do the oil pan if he's not gonna take care of the front end work. So when he's ready to do the front end work, as far as the suspension, I'm gonna go ahead and warranty the oil pan gasket for him, just because we did it 1,500 miles ago. And although it's not my fault the oil pan gasket's leaking, it's not his. So like I said, we're gonna take care of that for him when we take care of the front end. All right, now, there's a lot of play, if you come on in here, in some of these tie rods. So these outer tie rods, the inner, because it's got a steering gearbox on this E34, so some of these inner joints that have play as well. And then if you come look up in here, this joint here has a good bit of play, and you can see the bushing, and you can see the boot is ripped. And then check these out. That's completely toast. That's not what you want out of a forward arm like that. How about this one? I don't think this one's too bad. But one thing, yeah, this one wasn't too bad. You can see this one's newer and it's mismatched with this side. So I think they've both been replaced. I don't know, that one's pretty crusty. As you guys can see, suspension wise, she needs some love up front. Let's go ahead and take it to the back. Remember when we built this car, we went crazy on the exhaust. It's got super sprint headers into a full custom stainless exhaust coming back to a vibrant muffler. And this is probably the best sounding S52 I've heard in a while. So if you check out what we got going on here, look over here, look at this sway bar end link. First of all, you can see it's all cracked and brittle, but note right here, note the thickness of where that slides on. And then if you come over here, look, this one's working its way out on its own. Just trying to leave the chat. Over here, just as John's other E34 was, the differential's leaking pretty bad, so we'll have to remove this and reseal it, as well as, if you can see up in here, you able to see that bushing flexing there? So that bushing's all cracked and brittle and flexing. And then another thing that you often want to check on these E34s is up here near the fuel tank, the filter and the lines up here, nothing's leaking, nothing's extremely rusted, brittle. Everything looks good up there. Coming forward to finish up the diff, we can see, you get in here, we can see our front diff bushing smoked as well. Last but not least, coming over here to the subframe, extreme mushy bushy going on here. Look at the wheel as I do that. So you might ask yourself, what are all these mushy bushies gonna cause? You're gonna notice it in the tire, to where on the outside, it looks like the tire's in pretty good shape. But if you come over here to the inside, you can see that's almost ready to blow. This is worn through the first layer of rubber, and cracks like that right there are just a few bumps away from showing a cord or giving you an unexpected blowout, and that's not what we want. John wants to take this on a road trip, and because I see the extreme wear on this side, what I can recommend, I mean, I told him as his mechanical expert, I don't condone this road trip, and as someone who really does see the car for what it is overall, as long as he's not too bad on it, we'll swap these tires left to right, and he'll just be smooth on the car with the mushy bushies, and he'll make it. I think he's going about 800 miles. So that's not gonna be a problem for the car. If we were to leave this tire here, I'm not sure how far he would make it, but if you take a look at this side, we got some material to burn off here. And another thing that I'm noting here is, check out this tire on the inside. Check that out. Do you see that fresh rubber right there? That's a wear mark. So if you look up in here, the bushings are so bad that the tire's actually been hitting the shock. This one over here, you can see an excessive amount of dust on it, which is a sign of leaking fluid. So as you guys can see, the full suspension just needs an overhaul. We got mushy bushings, we got worn tires, and it's not worth new tires until we handle the mushy bushy. So now that I showed you what we got going on with this E34, 1,500 miles after we put the S52 in it, I'm gonna go ahead and drain the oil, swap these tires left to right, and John's gonna go ahead and he's gonna take it on one last road trip before putting it away for the year. And then you should catch us doing these subframe overhauls, front and rear suspension, in the future. So stay tuned. All right, so after I got the oil drain, I did clean the oil pan up just a little bit. And one thing I noticed is John's been scraping. See that? Sure wasn't on the oil pan prior, so that's new. And the front tires aren't worn too bad either. So now I'm gonna drop it down, change the filter, and we will add our new oil. Melee, whatever, however you want to say it. We have the oil filter, so I'm going to go ahead and swap that out, and then go ahead and I'm going to run some Rotella T6. Unless someone asks us otherwise, we're going to run the Rotella T6 in an older engine like this. It's full of zinc, and everything I've been able to find on the internet says that's the best oil for these to keep them alive. So I've been running that for years without issue. Let us know down below if you use another oil, or if we're crazy for using Rotella T6, but I use it in everything from the diesel Cummins to the forklift to the S52. S54 might be a different story, we'll see, but the S52 and everything else, we run the Rotella T6. All right, so now that we got the wheel swapped and we got the oil changed, that'll conclude our quick inspection and service of this E34. 1,500 miles post S52 swap. You guys should expect to see it back soon, but in the meantime, it's gonna be stored for the winter. First, John's gonna take it on a quick road trip. It does get stored for the winter, but he drives it when he can, which is awesome. We love when people drive their cars. We love to build them so that people can enjoy them, right? These are the ultimate driving machines, so gotta drive them. Thanks for watching. This is Matt with Retro Motorsports USA. Go ahead and check us out on all of our social medias. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, anywhere at Retro Motorsports USA. See you guys next time. John's been scraping.
By sheer coincidence.
Since you guys have seen this last, there's been a bit of an oopsies. A big oopsie. Alright guys, so the last time you saw this car, we were sending John off. He was going to take a road trip up to Minnesota in this thing for Thanksgiving, I believe it was. And then we were going to handle his mushy bushings at a later date. Well, if you remember in this video earlier, we'll put a clip here, we noticed some scraping on his oil pan. So we told him, be smooth, car's kind of low, nothing crazy, but kind of low, but be smooth with the oil pan. Well, he took it on that trip, he made it to Minnesota, and I think the story is something along the lines of he made a wrong turn and he went down a dead-end street, and he was just trying to turn around, and then he macked a big old pothole, and he cracked his oil pan, leaving him and his girlfriend stranded in Minnesota. So we have since got the car transported back here to us, and now we're gonna go over the damage, and we're gonna proceed with replacing the oil pan and the mushy bushies.
Wow. I haven't seen it that bad before.
He literally shattered this oil pan. It looks like he
It's
made
dripping.
contact right here, and it's simple. It just broke the oil pan.
It went up, it went sideways, it went up, and then sideways right here. It's cracked in like five different spots.
Yeah, so
6. Everywhere I look is a new crack.
So needless to say, this oil pan is smoked, but luckily we had one in stock. If you don't know, when you put a 24 valve motor in the E34 chassis, you need to switch from the standard E36 style, which is a rear sump setup, to a front sump setup. And so the E30 guys, when they put the 24 valve engine in the E30, they need this oil pan too. So it's a pretty sought after oil pan. Luckily, we were able to source him one relatively cheap. I mean, they're not as cheap. They're about 3 times the price as a standard oil pan. But, so that definitely hurt his pockets a little. But as we stated before, and as you guys saw earlier in this video, all of his suspension needs refresh too. So we're gonna be taking care of all of that, as well as new oil pan gasket. And hopefully, he's a little bit more careful with this oil pan being so low. We might explore our skid plate options, so stay tuned. All right, guys, so this is where we're gonna cut this episode. You'll have to stay tuned for the next episode where we will actually be diving into replacing the oil pan and replacing a whole bunch of suspension components on this car in preparation for Tuner Galleria as part of the World of Wheels show March 8th in Rosemont. So if you guys are in the Chicagoland area, expect to see this car and this car with the S54 done at Tuner Galleria, part of World of Wheels, March 8th at the Rosemont Convention Center. You can catch us there as part of the Retro Motorsports USA booth. So that's all for this one. Make sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms. You can find us at Retro Motorsports USA. Check out our merch, check out our stickers. If you need E36, E34, E30 parts, contact us today. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.